Hello again, everybody. This is Rocketrickj18, and today I'm going to talk with you about some pickups that I made at the Strongsville Vintage Baseball Card and Sports Card Show. Um, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the show itself. So, uh, there were a lot of YouTubers at this show. I don't know exactly how many, because there were a number of people who have channels active, who were there, possibly as many as 40, maybe, a pretty large number. And there were also quite a large number of people who watch these channels but do not have their own channel. And it might have been that there was as many of those as there were people who do have a channel. So anyway, and then I think there were probably a substantial number of folks that, had it been as convenient for them as it was for me, since I don't live very far from Strongsville, Ohio, would have gone, but couldn't, for one reason or another, make it there. So I have three friends. I hope I have more than that, but I have at least three who I stay in pretty close contact with. And they are Scott from Stukes Baseball Cards and Curiosities, George from Concrete Buddy, and Adam, Vintage Sanctuary. We're on a little group that texts with each other and calls occasionally, and we occasionally get on and do a live stream with the group of us. And that's sort of what we do, and we enjoy that quite a bit. And then there is, unfortunately, none of the three of them could make it to this show. Two live pretty far away, and one, well, actually, three of them live pretty far away. There were some people who came from their respective states, but a couple of them. Anyway, those three guys weren't able to come, and I just wanted them to know that I missed them quite a bit. Some other people that were there that I watch regularly: Alex, Bowman 53, TJ Mack, Rick, Vintage Oddball Cards, John Mangini, Lou Rock TV, just I don't know how many more. Just a lot of really great people who I would dearly love to have seen, but for one reason or another, something got in the way of them coming to this show, and they weren't able to come. But I wanted them all, including any that I didn't mention. And I wish I could. I probably should have written them down, but I didn't. Anyway, if I comment on your channel from time to time, you know that I'm watching your channel. Probably more times than I comment. I try to comment often. And if I didn't mention your name here and you weren't at the show, feel free to chastise me for my poor memory. But I really do appreciate your channels, and I wish you could have been there, because it was really a show where there were lots and lots and lots of cards to look at over the 3 days of the show. Not as many as there are in the National, which is going to be in 3 more months. But I did want to mention those folks, and I'm going to mention the ones who were there in another video. I don't want to take too much time away from the cards. One of the things that I did at this show was to pick up cards from sets which I am currently actively collecting. Not every set that I'm actively collecting, but 2 of the 5 or so that I am actively collecting. And those 2 are the 1940 play ball set, which is the black and white with the names and nicknames and so forth on the front of the cards, and the 1952 Topps set. And there's a few other cards, at least one more. And then there are also some cards from the 1961 NuCard Scoops set, which is another set that I'm actively collecting. And the biggest haul of cards at the Strongsville show in the 1940 play ball set are cards that are these are common cards from the set, and I was able to pick up about 23 play ball 1940 play. It's a pretty substantial number, and it gets me much closer to having a reasonable shot at finishing this set sometime, hopefully in the not too distant future. So I'm going to show you these cards from the 1940 play ball set first. First thing I'm going to do is turn the camera down and show cards from this set. First is card number 11 of Alvin Jake Powell, a New York Yankees player. Cecil Travis, number 16. And Charles Solomon Buddy Meyer, card number 17 from the play ball set. So Jake Powell played with the 1939 World Series champion New York Yankees. His card number 11, he was an outfielder. And next is card number 16, Cecil Travis, again mentioning him, and Charles Solomon Meyer, second baseman for the Washington Senators. Cecil Travis was an infielder for the Senators. So that's the first 3 cards, and then I'm going to do these 3 at a time until we work our way through Charles Gilbert, Kendall Chase. These are all with the Washington Senators. And card number 23, Samuel Fillmore West. And so let's take a look at those. Charlie Gilbert from Oneonta, New York. Ken Chase. And that's card number 19. And card number 22, Sammy West. And there you are, those three. Cards number 18, 19, and 22. Card number 23, Emil Dutch Leonard. Card number 24, Frank Whitman Hayes with the Philadelphia Athletics, a catcher. And Robert Lee Johnson, outfielder with the Philadelphia Athletics. Bob Johnson is sometimes known as Cherokee Bob Johnson or Indian Bob Johnson, as he is known on a couple of those other cards. Suffice it to say that Bob Johnson is of a Native American heritage. Some of the you get a flavor for the nicknames that are on many of these cards: Frank Blimp Hayes and Emil Dutch Leonard. And so that's card number 23, 24, 25. Okay. 26, 29, and 31. Wally Moses. Roger Doc Kramer. John Francis Wilson. We'll turn these over and take a look at the opposite side. Wally Moses, outfielder of the Philadelphia Athletics, card number 26. Doc Kramer, card number 29 with the Boston Red Sox. And John Francis Wilson, Jack Wilson, card number 31, a pitcher with the Boston Red Sox. Card number 32 is Jim Bagby with the Boston Red Sox. Fritz Ostermuller, also with the Red Sox. And Joseph William Heving, also with the Red Sox. So these are all pitchers with the Boston Red Sox. Card numbers 32, Jim Bagby, 33, Fred Ostermuller, and 35, Joseph Heving, all pitchers with the Red Sox. Paul Dizzy Trout, pitcher with the Detroit Tigers. Harold Arthur Trotsky, Al Trotsky, first baseman with the Cleveland Indians, card number 50. And Edward Robert Miller, shortstop with the Boston Bees, also known as the Boston Braves. Card number 1956. Dizzy Trout, card number 44. Al Trotsky, card number 50. And Eddie Miller, card number 56. Next three cards are, not in any special order, card number 58, Bill Posdell. Card number 63, Pete Koskarbart. John Aloysius Hassett. Card number 62. And we've got a New York Giants here, Buddy Hassett, Pete Corkerart, first baseman for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and Bill Posdell, a pitcher for the Boston Bees or Boston Braves. So that's what we have for you to look at along the play ball card sets. Card number 25 is Frank Andrew McCormick, and he was a first baseman for Cincinnati, and they won the pennant in 1939, but not the World Series, because the Yankees won the World Series in 1939, their fourth of four in a row. And then card number 147 is John W. Hudson. No relation, as far as I know, to either me or my son, John C. Hudson. This card, as you can see by looking down the bottom of the card, is one of the Superman cards. And I'm going to point to it right there. And of course, it's an ad for Superman gum with the thrilling adventure cards that were issued in 1940 by Gum Inc., in addition to these baseball cards. So those are the 23 cards for the 1940 play ball set, all commons, no superstars or Hall of Famers or anything like that. The next few cards I'm going to show you are cards from the 1961 baseball scoops set. These cards start with card number 401. The thinking being that maybe they were a continuation of the 1960 baseball scoops set, which were taller and covered some of the same issues, some different. So the first card that I have to show you is card number 429, and it commemorates Campy's 1953 MVP award. That was the second of the three that he earned in the first half of the 1950s. He was also MVP in 1951 and in 1955. So the next card that I'm going to show you is number 442, commemorating Hank Greenberg's return to the Tigers in 1945 from his military service during World War II. And mighty happy that we're to have him back, I can tell you. Card number 449 commemorates Harmon Killebrew's starting spring training in the spring of 1960. And Harmon was really came into his own in the decade of the 60s and the first half of the 70s. He was a bonus baby, which is the name that they gave to players like Harmon Killebrew, Sandy Koufax was another, that were simply too good to take a chance that somebody else would try to steal them from the organization. But because of the amount of bonus that they received, they had to come up to the big leagues and play. And so Harmon Killebrew came up in 1955 along with Sandy Koufax, but like Sandy Koufax, really didn't come into his own until the early 60s. We don't have the same system now, so they have other problems, but not that one. Card number 453 commemorates the home run that Yogi Berra hit September 16th, 1950. My eyesight's not that good. 1955, to put them in first place on September 16th. And of course, they went on to capture the American League pennant before losing to the Brooklyn Dodgers and Johnny Padres, their MVP of that World Series, 4-3. Card number 468 commemorates Rocky Colavito's game in 1959, June 10th, when he hit 4 home runs in a single game. That's a fairly rare occurrence. Babe Ruth never did it. Mickey Mantle never did it. Lou Gehrig did. Rocky Colavito did. Obviously, Mike Schmidt did. There are many others who had 4 or more. Sean Green had 4 home runs. I believe he also had a double and a single in that game, and he holds the modern Major League record for most total bases in a single game, breaking Dale Long's. Dale Long? No. I think it was Dale Long. It might have been Joe Adcock. Anyway, somebody else had 18, 4 home runs and a double. The record for most home runs in a doubleheader, you probably know, was Stan Musial. He hit 5 home runs, but he hit 3 in one game and 2 in the other one. So that's Rocky Colavito. A lot of people thought Rocky was going to have a Hall of Fame career. He had a good career, but just not, I think, not quite consistently long, not long enough for a consistent period of time for him to get in the, and his team never captured an American League pennant or World Series. 1959 was the year of the Go-Go Sox in the American League. It is one of the 2 seasons in the 1950s that the Yankees did not win the American League pennant. They did get to the World Series. Nellie Fox was their MVP for the season. However, they came up short in the series to the then Los Angeles Dodgers, and now Los Angeles Dodgers, for their first World Series championship and first National League pennant after moving from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. That's card number 472. Card number 474, we've already alluded to this event earlier with the Yogi Berra home run card. The winner of Game 7, surprise starter Johnny Padres, won a 2-0 shutout over the Yankees on October 4th, 1955. And for the first time in 8 tries, the Brooklyn Dodgers beat the Yankees in the World Series. So quite an achievement, and this is the card that commemorates that. Padres, you might know, was quite a fun-loving character. Um, I think he actually in the clubhouse. Uh, he actually made a pass at I believe, the general manager's daughter, Buzzy Bavasi. So I don't think he knew it was his daughter, but I don't think it would have stopped him either way. So that's baseball scoops. And I also have some additions to my 1952 top set. Again, all common cards, and they are in numerical order, although that's not terribly important because they are there's not that many of them. I think I have 11 to show you. So the first card is card number 192, and that is Myron Ginsburg. Uh, Card number 194 is Joe Hatton. And they don't look too bad. Obviously, corners not so good. Registration's probably not the best on the Ginsburg card. Let's turn them over and take a look at the backs. The backs look pretty decent. There's a looks like a mark on the Joe Hatton card. So these cards are probably 1.5 to 1. Probably all of these cards are. So that's the first two. Next, card number 199 is George Zuverink, and card number 207 is Mickey Harris. George has a little paper loss up here on this corner. Centering is bad, as they are on many of the 52 Topps cards, but the pictures themselves are beautiful. The cards are beautiful, and happy to be making progress on this set. The backs look pretty good. There's George Zuverink, pitcher with the Cleveland Indians, and Maurice Charles Harris, also a pitcher with the Indians. That is on the card. Writing looks like some kid somewhere along the line took a crayon. I don't think it's I guess it could be a magic marker, but if it was a magic marker, then it was a lot later. We didn't have such things. I wasn't alive in 1952, but only just barely not. So there we go. A couple of Indians pitchers. The Indians were pretty good during these years too, by the way. They had some great pitchers, and then a couple of guys like these two, who were certainly not up to the caliber of Bob Feller and Bob Lemon, Mike Garcia, and Early Wynn. Next, we have card numbers 231, Sam Zoldak. Paper loss on Sam. Chico Carrasco. I don't know if any of you remember the character on Saturday Night Live, who was given the name Chico Escuela, which I think means maybe, I don't know if it means anything. It might mean squirrel, but maybe not. In any case, I think that name pretty clearly has to be influenced by Chico Carrasco, although Chico was a much better player. The famous saying on the show was, "Baseball have been very good to me." I don't know. It might be a little uncomfortable. You know, he is from Venezuela. Played with the White Sox. along with Minnie Mignoso, and he was a shortstop, and a very good one, by the way. Um, I always like to mention whenever I see a player from New York City that went to Fordham University, because I sent a substantial amount of money to Fordham University for 8 years, during which two of my children went to school there. They collected 3 degrees at Fordham, which I'm very proud. And the youngest one went on to law school at Faulkner University in Montgomery, Alabama, where he met his lovely wife. And here we have these two cards. So Sam Zoldak and uh, Chico Carrasco. The next two cards are cards number 252 and 266. And they are Vern Bickford for the Boston Braves and Murray Dixon for the Pittsburgh Pirates. As you can see, Murray has a very substantial crease near the top, and Vern has one right up, just barely above his eyeballs, and another one across his chin. So these cards are poor, no question about that. Vern Bickford was a pitcher, and came from Virginia. He did play on the Braves National League pennant winning team in 1948. Murray Dixon played for the Cardinals, came to the Pirates in 49. His cumulative record at this time was 96 and 88. His best year for the Cardinals in 1946 was a pretty good year, because the Cardinals won the World Series. Murray was 15 and 6. So you can see that he won about a sixth of his career games in that single season. And the next two cards are card numbers 298 and 277. And you can see that somebody has taken a punch and punched Bob Ross's ticket. Now, I hasten to add, this is not Bob Ross the painter, so that's probably why you don't see any happy little trees in the background. This is Bob Ross, the baseball player, along with Jim Delsing. Bob Ross played for the hapless Washington Senators, and Jim Delsing played for the equally hapless St. Louis Browns. And Bob Ross was a pitcher for the Senators, Jim Delsing an outfielder for the Browns. He also tried out for the White Sox, rather. His contract, he came up with the Yankees in 1949, and he was traded to the Browns in 1950. I don't know how long his career was after that. He also contributed to military service in 1944 and 45. Ross was a little little younger, not quite old enough for military service in 45 or during the war, but he did serve in the Army uh, for the 1952, most of the 1952 season um, during the Korean conflict. So those are my 12 pickups for the 1952 top set. I'll try to give you an update in the next, but I think that puts me around, I don't know, 230 some, maybe a little more. So I do have one other card to show you. I mentioned this card in another video. This is from the 1968 Fleer World Series cards, and this is the commemoration of the World Series scoreless inning mark set by Whitey Ford, 33 and 2/3 innings. I believe he recorded or pitched in 2 shutout games. I think he had an injury maybe in the first one. I'm not 100% positive of that. Somewhere during that record, he did have 5 and part of another inning before he had some minor injury and wasn't able to continue the scoreless innings. So that's part of his streak. The holder of that record before Whitey Ford, and it was not known to Whitey, either that he had set the record or who had held it before, but it was Babe Ruth, who had, I think, 29 and a third scoreless innings as a pitcher. I mean, it's when you look at Ruth's records, not much attention is given to the fact that he won like 95 or 96 games before he became a full-time regular player. Had he played regularly in those 5 years, how many home runs would he have hit? I don't know, but I suspect quite a few. So when some people say Ruth was the greatest player that ever played the game, it's hard to argue with that. Although there are a couple of other good candidates, and I've always said, in my opinion, that if it wasn't Babe Ruth, it was Willie Mays, probably the best 5-tool player that on offense and defense. And didn't pitch, but then Babe was not a great outfielder in the same way or anywhere near the way that Willie Mays was. So that's the final card I have to show for you, and that's all I have for you. So this is Rocketrickj18, wishing that all your collecting dreams come true, and so long until we meet again, which hopefully won't be too long.